Hmm. Hi there. Sorry for the delay. Thank you for waiting. I'm here. Jaki Sabourin, thank you so much for being here. New year, new you. This is super exciting. I love the 2020, the roaring 20s. I feel like there's so much hope, so much promise for this next decade. I'm really excited. And so I just wanted to check in with you and talk about what it really means to be the best version of yourself. And I'm just going to give you the things that I use in my own life as examples instead of coming up with some textbook definition of what it means to be the best version of yourself. And so when I think about being the best version of myself, I can only do that when I'm intimate with myself. And what I mean by intimate with myself, I mean that I'm not afraid to look deep within to self-examine. And so I'm very aware of my limiting beliefs that have challenged me in my life. I'm aware of where they came from. So I follow those limiting beliefs to their source. That's how you become more intimate with yourself. You need to know not only what your limiting beliefs are that challenge you to being more and all that you can be, to where they source from. As soon as you can trace them back to their origin, their source, then you can free yourself from them. Because as soon as a limiting belief comes up, for example, I'm going to write a book this year. I'm really excited about my book. I've already started it. And of course, as soon as I publicly announce that I'm going to write a book, all these limiting beliefs like, oh, it's not going to be good. People are going to critique you, etc. Right? All the negativity, the negative self-talk starts. And so but because I'm intimate with myself and I'm aware that one of my challenges had been in my history was not feeling good enough. And that came from the economic situation that I was raised in when I was a little girl. It was very challenging. I went hungry. I stood in a line, waiting to get, food stamps and welfare with my mom. Those experiences left me feeling like I wasn't good enough. I wasn't good as the other kids. And that perpetuated itself into my adult life. So of course, when I say I'm going to write a book, the first thing that gets dinged is not good enough. But since I'm aware of it, since I'm intimate with myself, I can observe it. I don't have to go into the thought process about it. I know where it came from, and I can send that part of me some love that really did feel that I wasn't good enough as a child. But knowing as an empowered woman and an adult that I am good enough because I accept myself, I love myself, and we're all good enough. It's our divine birthright to have everything that we want and desire. So when you set goals for yourself, you naturally will know that you're going to have to get really intimate with the fact that you may set a goal, but it may not unfold the way you want it, right? Your mind has an idea how things should unfold, and then life starts to happen and get in the way of that. And a lot of times that can cause a lot of problems, because if we have too much rigid thinking around the how it has to show up, then we can get stuck in emotional ruts and not really manifest whatever we want. For example, my book. I have a deadline for my book for myself. I'm committed to writing my book, and I have a process in place and a team that's supporting me, but I don't really actually know how everything's going to unfold. There may be delays. I may need to do more videos to create more content, etc. So I'm just going to relax into the how, but I already have my intention is the what. So I'm not going to keep saying I'm going to write a book. I'm going to write a book. I already committed to that. Now I'm just going to focus on the unfolding and following the steps to make sure that happens, but not being attached to how it needs to happen. So that's all about going with the flow. So how to be the best version of yourself. How does this tie in? Being the best version of yourself, I find so much easier when we let go of control, when we release our, control, hand on the steering wheel, trying to steer everything in life. When we relax into this law of allowing, the law of surrender, we know and we trust that life happens and things come up. But if we let go of control and the need to steer everything, then we can go with the flow. If life takes a right, we can take a right. If it goes left, we go left, instead of being so stuck in having the outcome exactly the way you want it, which just takes so much more time. It's so draining of your life force energy in it. And it definitely takes longer to achieve things than letting go of control and allowing the universe to orchestrate everything that your hearts desire. And so another part of being the best version of yourself that I really adhered to over the years is to stay in the step that you're in until you master it. I think that's the biggest problem for most people, is that in the process of becoming better at something, becoming the better you, like in the process of me becoming a better writer, I need to stay in the step of becoming a better writer, or I'm not going to master that piece, and I'm always going to struggle in that area. So instead of putting a lot of other tasks on my plate, I need to become masterful in that task so that I can be successful in that area. Then and only then would I move on. And so, I was really stressed out about doing webinars. And those of you who've been following me and know that you've been on some of my trainings, webinars are, like a slideshow presentation where you're talking, you have slides, and you're teaching. Well, I used to be so afraid to do this. Oh my gosh. And first of all, I would only do the slides. I would never let anybody see me so that I could, I just I hadn't mastered it. So then after a couple of years of doing the presentation with just the slideshows, I started to do a direct camera where you could see me and you could see the slide, but I was still talking directly to the camera. So that took me a couple of years to master, to get out of my fear of being seen. They were live. I couldn't stop it and back up and if I made a mistake or said something incorrectly. And so how I was able to do that and stay in that step until I mastered it is because I accept myself. So the more I did it, the more comfortable I got, and the more I accepted myself. And the more I said, one of my biggest tools in coaching is the word, so what? I want you to all write that down. So what is so empowering. So what if I make a mistake? That's how I learn. So what? I mean, so what? We're humans. We make mistakes, but if we learn from those mistakes, we understand that mistakes are how we learn. And so of course we're going to make mistakes. The more you make, the faster you learn, right? And so stay in the step that you're in, whatever step you're in with dating. You're not getting on first dates, and you need to practice. You need to up level your profile. You need to get better at the flirty banner online. If you're not getting asked out on second dates, you need to get better at being present on your first dates, being more of a conscious listener, less judging, etc. Each step has a piece that needs to be mastered. So once you master each of those steps, you're a great conversationalist. You have a high level of social skills. It's easier to hold eye contact on dates. And pretty soon, before you know it, you start connecting more and more with men. And then one third date leads to fourth, fifth, and then an inclusive relationship. But each of those steps was because you mastered the initial getting your profile launched or meeting men in real life. Then you mastered making direct eye contact, listening on the first date, getting asked on the second dates, etc., being more intimate and vulnerable. So I highly recommend, if you're working on something, to see it through. Don't put a bunch of things on your plate and try to multitask and then not get anything done. So that's one of my secrets. It's really helped me in my business and my personal life. And what else can I say? Let me see if there's any questions. Hi, ladies. Let's see. I don't know. There's a bunch. I love your content. Live in San Diego too. My salon is North Pacific Beach near La Jolla. Hi, Eden. Thanks for that. Let me go back. Have you done any of this before? Did it work? I'm not really sure if what you're talking about. So ladies, if you have any questions, this is a great time to post them in the chat box if you're watching on YouTube, and then I can give you some direct coaching. Let's go back to talking about being the best version of yourself. And the key to all of this talk about being the best version of yourself is accepting yourself. You can't become the best version of yourself if you don't have a deep level of self-acceptance. And that's where the so what comes in. You make a mistake, so what? If you forget to do something you're supposed to do, so what? Beating ourselves up, it serves no useful purpose. It just drains our energy. So when you make a mistake, it's so important that you quickly observe and correct that mistake. So you observe that you made it, you don't beat yourself up, and then you do the next best thing that you can do. And so accepting yourself is one of the most powerful things that you can do in your life. It frees you up to, do live broadcasts, not worry about so much on the external in life, because internally you are having a deep experience within yourself that's all about self-acceptance, self-love, boundary protection, intimacy. And when you show up for yourself in that way, it's so much easier to show up that way for other people, but it all starts with you. So practicing more self-acceptance, and stop saying that I'll accept myself when I lose 10 pounds or when I get a better job or when I have a man. Start now. Start accepting yourself now, because that's what's going to make you so attractive to the man that you're wanting to attract. Because self-acceptance is all about having inner confidence. It's all about confidence. Real confidence comes from developing your own inner riches, not looking to others to use as, like, oh, I have this car, I have this job, or I using other things to make you credible. You don't need things to make you credible. You're already so credible. All you have to do is to know that. And how you become credible to yourself is accepting yourself, loving yourself, trusting yourself, and giving yourself the benefit of the doubt, just like your best friend would. Start giving yourself the benefit of the doubt. So that is my biggest key. There was a time in my life, is self-acceptance, when I didn't accept myself. I didn't even know myself. And since I didn't know myself, it was very hard to accept myself, because I was riddled with shame and self judgment about the choices and the mistakes that I've made in my life. I didn't understand that mistakes were how I learned. I wouldn't let myself off the hook, and I was really suffering when I was judging myself, being so hard on myself, impatient with myself, disappointed in myself. And finally, I learned to, I guess I just surrendered to that I'm human, that I'm going to make mistakes. I forgave myself for all the mistakes, the so-called mistakes that I made. And I started to come into a deep level of acceptance and understanding that the way that life works is we're here to learn. That's what life's all about. And you're going to make some mistakes. You're going to throw some gutter balls. So the sooner you fail your way to the top and you understand that's the process, is making so many mistakes that you get it right, you move on to the next lesson, then you will have so much more success in life. And so let me answer a question here. I haven't seen my value. I need a coach to work on that. Well, you come to the right place, as I'm all about helping you to discover your real value. Now, you all have your real value inside. It's your birthright. You're all so valuable. And your value isn't sourced from external things. It's not about how much money you have, how beautiful you are, the people that you know, your degrees. Those things are wonderful and amazing. Don't get me wrong. Those are things in life that we enjoy, and those are the fruits of our labor. But your real value comes from your connection to your source, your connection to knowing who you really are, a godlike being. You're an angel. You're a spark of the divine. And you have to start connecting and being that and doing that, knowing that you're a part of something so much bigger, and identifying from that place, not identifying from the things you have, but who you really are, and your ability to connect to your intuition, to vast knowledge, and to really accept yourself. Again, I'm going back to that self-acceptance, that you're perfect just the way you are. You're perfect just the way you are. And so what kind of self-work did you do to build your self-worth and be more accepting to yourself? So Sheila, that's a great question. And so I think that one of the biggest keys was forgiveness. So when I wasn't able to forgive myself for some of my choices, it's like eating poison and expecting somebody else to die, right? So I'm still have this toxicity inside of me because I'm still holding on to whatever happened, whether somebody did something to me and I contributed to it or whatever. So when you don't have forgiveness in your heart, it glues you to the incident for much longer than you need to. The incident's over, whatever happened, it's in the past, but because you haven't forgiven it, you bring it into the present and you contaminate everything. And so forgiving yourself is a self-protection mechanism. You forgive yourself to release yourself from the toxicity that's left over by incidents, by mistakes we make. You have to forgive yourself so that you can move on, so you can free yourself. It's less about the other person and more about you. And I just didn't understand that. So that was one of the biggest things that helped me, is to forgive myself. And also, I think that I experienced enough hard knocks that it knocked me back, knocked my ego back enough to where I felt so vulnerable that I was at a place where I was more receptive and open to change. And that happens to a lot of people, by the way. Typically, change happens when we've experienced some kind of paradigm crash. And what I mean by that is a crisis, a bankruptcy, a foreclosure, a loss of a loved one, a divorce, a breakup, a betrayal. Those things create a crisis, and our mind is temporarily suspended and from all the defense mechanisms it has in place, and it opens you up and helps you to have an ascension. It's kind of an ascension crash. You crash, but then you can ascend because you see things so much differently after you have a huge trauma. It opens your eyes so much more. So I think that for me, and answering that question is that I experienced, a certain amount of trauma going through divorce, and it caused me to start to really question my own behavior, get out of blame, get out of victim. Like, he did this to me, get about, well, what did I do? What's my role in it? And as soon as I could take responsibility for that, I started to change. And then it just incrementally got faster and faster and faster, and it was snowballing. And it felt so good to be, I guess, it felt so good to finally be in a place where I was receptive to change and vulnerable enough to see where I had gone wrong and how to repair that. So I hope that helps. So let me just go back to some of the questions here. Men are lazy and players because they have choice. Well, now that's a belief that you can go ahead and let go of. And so I would invite you to, I know that online dating can be really frustrating. I was online, but when you have a belief that it's hard and that men are lazy and they're players, then your belief creates your experiences. So if you believe that, then your experiences are going to reflect that belief. So that's why I want to invite you to just stop believing that. So yes, there are players online. Yes, there are men that are lazy, and there are good men online as well. So I would recommend getting a new belief for yourself that reflects the experience you want to have, and coming to the table more in a more like really frame of mind where you are focused on the outcome that you want, and less on what's happening in the now. So basically, sometimes if men are being lazy and not connecting, you just swat those men away like a fly. So the flies are buzzing around and you're just swatting them away. You're not actually focusing on the fly. As soon as you put your focus on that man that's being lazy or he's a player, you take your attention off what you really want, which is a man that loves and adores you, and you put all your focus on all that negativity. And pretty soon your energy goes down, your vibration goes down, and all you see are those men that are lazy and that are players. So it kind of like if you buy a white car, all of a sudden you'll see, or you want to buy a white car, all of a sudden you'll see white cars everywhere. So whatever you focus on expands, and whatever you remove your attention on disintegrates. So it's a state of mind that you can train yourself to be in. And initially it's not easy because there's resistance, because your mind's 90% negative. I mean, by the time we're 40 years old, psychologists have proven now that we think 50,000 thoughts a day, approximately, and 90% of them are negative. So it is hard to turn that thinking around. But once you're able to continue and consistently focus on the outcome you want and not the flies, the men that aren't doing what you want, you'll start to see more and more of those men that you do want show up. And it is about energy. It is about the law of attraction, and it is about what you think about, you bring about. So drop those conversations like a hot coal and start thinking and saying and doing everything that you want to create in your life. Thinking, saying, and doing. So everything you think about, everything you speak about, everything you do, your thoughts, words, and deeds all have to be congruent in order for you to create the life you want. That's why there's no room for complaining about players and these other men. Just remove your focus on them and they'll disintegrate, and you just keep your focus on having a man who loves and adores you, and he'll show up. And so one more question, then I'm going to end the broadcast. Hi, Kat. I've learned so much in a short time watching you recently. Have met the man that has captured the desires of my heart, but I have been patient and have also grown a lot. That's wonderful. Congratulations. That's such great news. I have self-confidence and I go on dates easily, but I haven't seen my value. I always pretzel myself. How can I change that? So pretzeling comes from looking externally for validation. So what happens is we, without really realizing it, can a lot of times want a man to validate us, to give value to us, because that's where our value is sourced from our childhood. Our parents were born, and the first person that gives value to you and teaches you your value is your mother or your father or whoever raised you. You look at them, you're an infant, they look at you and they give you affirmations of value. So from the moment you're born, you learn that all your validation, your value is externally sourced. And you never really learn, because we're not taught this in school. So we all have this challenge, and I had it too, is that all of our value is externally sourced. Isn't that powerful? Just knowing that, oh, I just have some incorrect thinking. As a child, yes, that was true. But now that I'm an adult, all my value needs to be sourced from within. I give myself value. I validate myself. I love myself. I accept myself, and I know what my values are. So when a man wants me to do something that's out of my value, I'm not going to pretzel to get him to approve of me. And it's all about approval, craving approval, because as soon as I want him to approve of me by doing whatever it is you're doing to pretzel yourself, you turn him into an object. So let me explain that a little bit more. When you want a man to approve of you, you objectify him in that process, and you stop seeing him as a human being, and you start using him as a way to get a need met. Now that's really deep, I know, but that is what happens when we give our power to men, wanting them to give value to us. And when we pretzel, that's what it's all about. And I've done this before. I went on a trip with the man I was dating. I thought I was all in love with this man. He wanted to make some changes during our time together. I was pretzeling the whole time and wanting to be like perfect for him. And in the end, that wasn't attractive to him, and he ended up breaking up with me. And I look back and go, wow, that was all about me looking for him to give value to me, instead of just knowing my intrinsic value needs to be sourced from within. So I hope that craving approval really helps you. Understanding where it comes from our childhood. But now that we're all grown up, we don't need external validation. We need internal validation in order to make us feel truly real confident, truly confident. That's where it comes from, is self-validation, self-value. And so anytime you feel out of balance with what a man's asking you to do, you have to speak your truth, because that's how he's going to respect you. And that's and what he's not going to respect is the pretzeling. Okay, ladies, I hope this was helpful. Post any questions you have in my comment box, and I'll go through and answer these questions after the broadcast. Now, I want you to remember that if you want to get notifications about the training that I have coming up and the blogs that I do, you want to go to my website and sign up to receive my blogs. And so you can just go to www.engagedataanyage.com and go to my blog tab and just sign up to receive my blogs. I put out a blog every Tuesday, and you may be missing out on that. That's a written blog, in addition to my live videos on Thursday. So just know I'm sending you all so much love, and I want you to just plan on becoming the best version of yourself this year, the version that a man is going to find the most attractive. Okay, love you. Bye.